Hello and welcome to a solo episode. A lot has happened since last did a solo episode. I think the last solo episode I talked about starting a podcast, creating one, and my fears of not getting enough guests for the podcast. So let's see how many times I can say podcast without saying podcast. This is now quarter one, which is 2026. So I'll be talking about January, February, and March. A lot has happened since then. Lots of surprises, ups and downs, more ups than downs, to be honest. January was an interesting one because, first of all, it's the start of the new year. Everyone's got their New Year's resolutions. And for me, I just wanted to get straight back into creating episodes. My concern was finding guests. In the first week or second week of January, I came across a newsletter that I've been registered for quite a while. I don't know about you, but trying to go through all your inbox and trying to find information in your inbox is quite tricky. But one of the ones that I have been following for quite a while is Freelancer Magazine. It's a magazine for obviously freelancers and creatives. They said, well, if anybody wants to put an event going on that's happening in their area, please feel free to contact us. So I thought this might be probably the best opportunity to find out if it's possible to look for guests in a different way. So by contacting the relevant people on Freelancer Magazine, I then asked if it's possible for me to do a guest call out. Immediately I was thinking this is not going to happen, but to my surprise, they said, yes, this will be a good opportunity to put out a call out. And if you can get information by a certain time, we can do that for you. So it was really an eye-opener because I discovered a lot more community than I thought there was. I opened up to more people that who might be interested in looking for being a guest on the podcast. I realised that there are other avenues and different ways of reaching out to putting yourself in front of the communities that you need to be in front of, not just looking for guests or being on a podcast, but being a creative yourself. And I did find that was very interesting that I knew all this information was out there. I knew that this is what you needed to do, but I was expecting a lot of rejects or no, sorry, too busy. But at the end of the day, people are more open than you think they are. And having a community is the whole reason why I started this podcast. So the first 2 weeks of January was quite busy. I got a lot of interest. I also pushed out a lot of Instagram posts, letting people know about a guest call out. And, I tried different methods. I tried doing, apply by a certain amount of time. I tried doing different marketing techniques. I had to go onto the waiting list, and that seems to be working as well. A mixture of don't put all your eggs in one basket. You just need to find out different ways, avenues. But the most important thing for me, I knew that I needed to work quickly, not wait around. If it's not working, just move on to the next idea. I also tried other social media, like I tried LinkedIn as well, and LinkedIn was good. There was someone that I'd had connection with who put me through to someone else. Wasn't as fruitful, but I think it was more of a slower burn. And so again, I was in the frame of mind. Let's just try it. Let's see what sticks. To be honest, I didn't really have a plan. I just wanted to experiment and see what would work and then anything that didn't work, I just pushed to one side. To my surprise, January, I had quite a lot of bookings. I had probably about 6. I got quite a lot of interest, and that was very promising. I was going about it the right way, in the right direction. So, yes, January was busy. I had lots of bookings, and it was all good. What things didn't go so well in January? I think I was also looking at different leads, like, for example, contacting organizations. I think I contacted some institutions. But the thing is, you need to, when you do contact like universities or large organizations, it's best to find out who individually is responsible for a specific, either the newsroom or the marketing or the PR. Make sure you know who to find to actually move the needle, as it were, to get the information you need out there. I think I felt a bit short with some of the responses. I didn't get enough information I needed. So, but that's partially for me to do more homework and more investigating to find out who the right people are to get, um, you know, my work or your work in front of the right people. So it just takes a little more time, but once you do find out who to speak to, you're more likely to be more successful. So that's one of the things in January I didn't do. I think I wanted to find out, wanted a quick fix to get the information out there quickly. Finding out who the right people were in the right departments, I probably would have been more successful when I was contacting institutions to find the guests that I was looking for. Now, I do have another thing I do is also like a coffee chat, like a virtual 30-minute chat. And I think I did last year try to use it as like to find out some like who my target audience was. But I think it hasn't been used for research purposes as what I originally wanted to use it for. But it has come in handy in January because not everybody wants to be immediately thrown into the spotlight, as it were, and become a guest on the podcast. They wanted to basically feel out to see if, I think they were also wanting to find out if they were compatible as a guest as well. But also, it was a good way of communicating and not just, assuming that they wanted to be a guest, but also to find out, new people, get to know new people that we never would have got to know in person. Um, I would love to meet people, and I have met a few of the guests in person. But the coffee chat was a good way to an entry of getting to know people, building a community, and yeah, I think I'm still at one point. I was considering scrapping it, but I don't think it's gonna hurt to keep it going. So yeah, I've been doing that as well throughout the quarter one of January, and definitely February and March of 2026. I'll keep that going. Yeah, February was an interesting one as well. I did discover when I was like doing the recordings, it was going well, everything was going fine. But I don't know what it was. Something just, triggered me and said, then I thought, okay, it's going well, but I was always thinking that it was going to be a struggle to find, guests. Then I realized well, it's actually doing the reverse. I'm actually building momentum and I'm actually getting guests coming through. Not necessarily fast, but at a steady pace. As I was doing 2 episodes a month, I realized that the spots were filling up quickly and that I had enough guests to probably see me up until the summer. So a mixture of solos and guest appearances, it made sense for me to stop looking for guests for season 1, but start considering to look for guests for season 2. It's now the beginning of February and I now have to consider looking for guests for season 2. And it was true. And I thought that it was going to take a lot longer and to find guests. So to my surprise, I needed to think quite far ahead, be more flexible, be more resilient. Basically, someone who's more agile and ready to move along with the times quite quickly. And I've been trying to do that a lot more, especially in February. Anytime I see an opportunity, I now kind of almost jump onto it. There was also more newsletters coming up on my radar. These were newsletters that I've been following for quite a while. Again, going back to community, I needed to be in front of the ones, and I needed to be in front of the audiences, the community that needed to hear the journeys of these great guests that I've been having. So I looked for regional newsletters, like there's a newsletter I follow in Manchester called Fuse. They're definitely the ideal, kind of guests and not just guests, but also creatives who have similar kind of values and they were definitely underrepresented creatives who are doing great work in the Manchester area. So I reached out to them, and again, they put my information into their newsletter. So it was very important for me to get in front of people in all the possible ways I could. And at the same time, in February, I was needed, and I was very aware, and it was something that I was struggling with, is creating a newsletter. I've looked at different courses and but I definitely needed to focus on creating a newsletter, not just for myself and not just for the podcast, but get to know the best ways to reach out to people. And obviously, being on a newsletter and getting to people's inboxes is probably the best way to do that. So that's what I'm still working on, and that's a work in progress. And so watch that space. Hopefully, I will create a newsletter for the podcast. So, as well as in February of looking at newsletters, I definitely knew that I wanted to start a new a waitlist that was specifically for season 2 guests. I definitely knew that I needed to get a system in place that made it more streamlined, and maybe go through a cycle of every few months, get a wait list out there so that I have a new fresh batch of guests to record with. And so far it's been fruitful, but I think just like anything, it does take time. But at the same time, and I think what really went well is that I've built really good connections. And there's a lot of crossovers. There's people who know other people. There's like word of mouth. And there are lots of creative designers in similar positions to myself who not necessarily who have a podcast, but also they've gone through stories in their life, and they've gone through struggles and come out at the other end. And some of those people's stories you've heard already. But one of the wonderful things that, and not just reason why I do create creatively eccentric, is hearing the feedback, and some of the things that you won't necessarily hear or see behind the scenes is that I get lovely comments from people, whether it's from directly in DMs on Instagram or emails, where I have a lot of creators who've told me that they've listened to the episodes and they can resonate with them and they can relate to them. And obviously words of encouragement as well has been really great. That is only part of the reason why this community is really great. It's slowly building. It's going to take some time. If anyone's listened to these episodes and resonating to the stories, that's fantastic. That's one of the many things I wanted to achieve. And so things were going really well in February. Not many things that didn't go well. I think it was more of I needed to adjust and be more flexible, I think was the only thing I needed to improve on. So now, March. Yes, March. A lot more going out, a lot more community building. Hello. My cat is here to speak to me. Hello. Oh, thank you. This is why I have to shut the door, because my cat wants to get involved. You right, Dennis? Oh. Yes, I know you like the microphone. As I was saying, I'm going to continue talking when I've got a cat on my desk and a tail in my face. Yeah, March. March was great. It had a lot of more outdoor community activities. And I think one of the main ones was to not just talk and communicate online, but definitely to speak to people in person. I went to a lot of workshops, and I'm going to a lot more workshops. I've planned a lot of creative workshop activities like screen printing and Rizzo printing. And also I will definitely book more like networking festivals and design activities that are going to help me speaking one-to-one with people as well. And getting involved in other communities nearest to me as well as internationally as well. By the time this goes out, I definitely have spoken to a lot of guests, and one thing I've learned is that no matter what background you're from, what experience you have, you definitely need to look at deeper into yourself how you can not just develop and improve yourself, but how to improve others. And I didn't go intentionally to say, right, oh, this is the podcast that you must listen to, and this is the word of Creatively Eccentric. You've got to follow it religiously. It's more you dip in and dip out. You resonate with some episodes more than others. You find that if you don't resonate with it, you know someone who does or might resonate with this episode. So yeah, it's a mixture of everyone can find what they need from whatever source of information they can. And I've learned a lot, not just for myself of doing the podcast, but also I've learned a lot from the guests themselves. And I've come across some individuals who I would have never have come across if I didn't start this podcast. But I'm really excited for you to hear more episodes coming up after this one. And actually, the next one I'm looking forward for you to listen to. He's an illustrator and a writer as well. And that's another thing. I know as being a host, obviously being the face of Creative Eccentric, people naturally gravitate to the host as you can see maybe yourself in them, or you can relate to them in any particular way. And being a female designer, and I've been getting a lot of creative female entrepreneurs and designers, and I'm really happy for that. I definitely would like to see a mixture of different backgrounds as well, as male, female, or everyone in between. I know from the outside looking in, it might seem like it was mainly just a female creative podcast, but if anyone's watching this or listening and you hear any of the episodes, I do think that all of these episodes are relative and relatable, no matter what background you are. And you want to join the other guests that have been on the podcast for joining the guest waitlist for the next season, there's a link down in the show notes. If you are listening and you have listened to any of the episodes, please write a review. That will help this podcast immensely. It would help to get more people to listen to the podcast who need to know and hear these stories. So if you could take 2 minutes of your time, that would be much appreciated. So what went well? The community, the designers, the creators that I listened to and had great conversations with, whether it's online and offline. I've learned a lot from the individuals. My processes have improved. I've got more of a better way of getting the recordings of the episodes out. And also I've learned that I needed to not only just do more community building online, I definitely needed to do it in person, offline as well. What didn't go so well? I think maybe the direction of maybe applying and looking for opportunities to promote the podcast didn't go so well, but I've learnt that it may be not necessarily the right time, or maybe it might not be the right position or the right people that I needed to contact. So I will probably look at different ways of repositioning or placing my opportunities in the right places, or maybe to the right person. And just want to say thank you to everybody who's listened. Thank you to everyone who shared the podcast episodes, who recommended guests. I do appreciate it. So until the next solo episode, I'll speak to you soon.